Good evening. Welcome to day 18 of The Woman Called You Do Over January. Um, our emphasis for this January is 31 days to declutter and deconstruct the mind to gain clarity. Um, it's been a process, a learning process for me as well, because, like I said, when you deconstruct the mind, you're unlearning to relearn. And it's been awesome. I don't know about any other person, but I know for myself, when you do this kind of things, you're like learning all over again. So today is day 18, and we're saying, how do I develop mental strength? How do I become mentally strong? But before I go on, as I usually would do every day, I just quickly do a recap of what the Woman Called You is. We're a platform where we hopefully, to inspire change through personal growth. Like I always say, you can't give what you don't have. So we're committing, or rather, we're committed to developing ourselves, one lesson at a time. So today, day 18, how do I develop mental strength? How do I become mentally strong? For the last two episodes, I've been talking about mental strength. First, I gave indicators 2 days ago on how you can identify if you're mentally weak. Yesterday was about identifying if you're mentally strong, giving everybody the opportunity, to tick some boxes, and then reevaluate yourself. So today we're saying, assuming you've decided or you've not found out whether you're mentally weak, you're mentally strong, good for you if you're mentally strong. If you have, a high of mental strength, good for you. But for those people who are probably thinking, how do I become mentally strong? Then, as usual, pen, paper, because we're going to just go on a small journey to discover how we can develop our mental strength. And the truth is this, everyone, without a doubt, desires to live a life that is balanced. I'm sure you do just as much as I do, to live a life that is not just balanced, but healthy as well. And all of this reflects the kind of choices we make. And whether we like it or not, at the end of the day, if we have to evaluate the way we feel, the way we think, and all of that, we can actually say and admit whether we think we're mentally weak or we're mentally strong. And if we find ourselves in tough situations, like I said yesterday, in fact, it was when I was watching it again, I realized that, oh, I didn't get that song well. It's when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. Yes, I remember now because I kind of mixed it up yesterday when I was trying to remember. And I think I got the songwriter right. It was Billy Ocean. Yes, correct me if I'm wrong too. So the fact is this: um, in whatever situation we find ourselves, how fast you can bounce back is determined by the kind of mental strength you have. Whether it's a tough time you're going through, whether you are being heavily critical of yourself, which most people do, whether you're facing some kind of conflict, and even when you're facing criticism from people, you know, if you're mentally strong, at least if on a scale of 1 to 10, if you're at least, like say, maybe an 8, then you might just be able to navigate that issue and come out even much more stronger. And when I keep on talking about mental strength, I mentioned it yesterday and I want to reiterate today that mental strength is not being tough. It's not about acting tough. It's not about acting tough. And most people think when somebody has mental strength, you are aloof, you just exude this kind of character of, yes, you might seem confident, but I said yesterday that being confident because you have mental strength is not being cocky. So when you have mental strength, you don't have to become a robot as most people will be. You don't have to have a tough exterior. Like maybe you're taking a picture and everybody knows that it means she's a stern woman. That's not what mental strength is. I said to us yesterday, the fact that you're mentally strong, don't ignore your emotions. Don't ignore them. The thing about being mentally strong, you're able to, confront your emotions, deal with them, interpret them in the best way, understand the way you feel. So someone else will not begin to tell you how you feel. Being mentally strong is not feeling that you're self-reliant. You have become, an island. You don't need anybody. It's not about proclaiming that, look, I don't need anybody in my life. I don't need help from anybody. That's not mental strength. In this case, mental strength is about admitting that you don't have all the answers, admitting that you're not perfect, admitting that the strength you have, you gain it from a higher power. Remember when I talked about spiritual self-care, I spoke about the element of the higher power. So mental strength also is not about the power of positive thinking. Just like how somebody says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. So I was okay. I want to think the way, what's this guy's name is? Bill Gates is. They say what you talk about is what you become. No matter how you say, I am Jeff Bezos, you can't just become Jeff Bezos overnight. So sometimes when you see people overtly believing in positive thinking, it can be detrimental to your mental health. Mental strength is about being realistic and rational. Be realistic. That's mental strength. It's not the power of positive thinking. That's not mental strength. Yes, you can think things into be, but there must be, prerequisite action. Action must follow. Your thoughts must become actionable for them to become reality. So there's that element of you having to think realistically. And that is where mental strength is. I reminded us yesterday, I said, look, mental strength is not about chasing happiness. I talked briefly about myself. Nobody should let you think that you wake up every day and you're trying to force yourself to feel happy. That's not mental strength. Mental strength actually lies in contentment. You make decisions that will help you reach your full potential. That's basically what mental strength is. So you're going to ask yourself now, how do I become mentally strong? Having seen all of this, there are practical ways, practical techniques you can put into place. The first one is simple. For those of you who have done marketing, do a SWOT analysis of your personality. Is important. What are your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities and threats? Put it down on paper so you see it in black and white. Deal with that. Another thing you need to do, begin to identify your challenges and self-goals. Identify them. Not something is in trend. Oh, everybody jumps on it. You have not seen if you have the capacity to do it, whether it's a mental capacity, whether it's financial, whether you need all the skill set, you haven't checked it. You just jump on it. Being mentally strong, having mental strength is able to identify and know your set goals and beginning to work towards them. Like I said, mental strength is not about positive thinking. You must also work positively, talk positively, do everything positively. And when you're doing that, please, I beg of us, because so many women will fall into this mental trap of self-deprecation. Now, them, I know fit, I know sure say, try as much as possible to avoid it. And you remember the other day when we talked about brain dump, everybody by this time, if you follow this a program judiciously, you must know everything that is a bad habit you have. Make up your mind to stop one bad habit and start working at it. As I started this do over January, I deliberately decided that I must deal with the way I approach, rather the relationship I have with food. Because truly, I'm not one of those that'll say, hey, I'm fat because it's in my nature. No, 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 no. I decided that the habit I will give up. I'm not going to tell people to do certain things and I won't look for how I'll deal with my own too. I would deal with the situation of my image, body image, and it has to do with being able to control and understand my relationship with food, eating at wrong hours, doing all of that. I need to become mentally stronger, to develop mental strength, because I'm getting older. Mental strength in the way I relate with food. So you see, that's one of the ways. And like I told you, I love, doing practical things. I love practical techniques. I won't just come and just give you hypothetical things that are not based, in theory. One of the things that you need to do to develop strength, try it. Take a piece of paper, write down 10 things, 10 fresh things every day. I mean, these are things I've learned a long time ago. Write it. There's what you call developing your idea muscle. Get a journal. Begin to write down things. Remember, I talked to us that day about our approach towards gratitude. Begin, I'm telling you, to write down what you're grateful for. Make it a habit. What you're actually doing, you're developing your mental muscle. Because the more you write down things you are grateful for, the more you see you're displacing those things that are negative, those things that usually would give you a headache, you are displacing them. So begin, not just journaling to put down things you're grateful about, begin to journal, to write down ideas. It doesn't matter how, crazy the ideas are, but because it's running around in your head, write it down. One other thing you need to do to become mentally strong, and that's a component of what I have decided to do. I've decided to work on my relationship with food, meaning that I've decided to take care of my physical health. You must do your utmost to create an enabling environment. Remember, I've been talking, there's been something that's been common in the thread of my conversation in the last couple of days, and that is toxicity. That is toxicity. You must begin to address everything that is toxic in your space. And when you begin to address these things, identify them. You're a step towards getting to the place you want to in terms of, mental strength. And when you start doing these things, consciously doing these things, one other thing that you should try to do, spend some time. Remember what I said about mentally weak people? They're scared of being alone. When you want to develop mental strength, begin to embrace your own company. Love your company. You can start in small pockets of time. And when you're loving your company, and not just maybe loving your company means you're watching TV. No, you're spending that time on self-reflection. You're spending that time to, how to say, I think my life. That's what you're spending time doing. And when you begin to do these things step by step. So those are the few practical things that you can do to develop mental strength. But when you come to the other one, whereby we're coming to the other side, whereby you can't really see somebody doing it and say, oh, it's very tangible. I can get a hold of this thing and know that this is what she's doing. For instance, one of the things you can do to develop your mental strength, I've said it not once, not twice, since this program started, you must begin to practice mindfulness. I'm telling you, mindfulness. So many of us were so carried away by emotions that were not present in the moment. You know, when you see yourself saying, pardon? I remember there was a time I was actually losing that ability to be present. And I know it was my spouse who began to, see it. And he was a little bit worried because I was totally absent minded half the time. And when you find yourself being absent minded, trust me, it's not something you should just brush aside and say, it doesn't matter, it's because I'm tired. Yes, it might be because you're tired. But when it becomes a norm, every time you're absent minded, you need to reevaluate yourself. You need to, deliberately start practicing mindfulness. I'm telling you. Because one thing about mindfulness, it encourages you to live in the moment. You hear every word that is coming out of somebody's mouth. You are able to engage, You're not anxious because you lost the moment. You're not anxious about what the future holds because you are present. Remember, I've been using this scripture very often because of this program. That sufficient is the trouble of today than worry about tomorrow. You won't be so anxious about the future. So just begin to practice it. Begin to become more conscious at the office, at home. Be conscious of your everyday routine. And you can actually, therapize yourself if you're serious. Begin to write it down. You know why I can say these things like this? I remember back then in 2007 when I was in treatment. In fact, even after coming back for the better part of 2008 and up till when I was heavily pregnant for my last child, I had like a register that daily I used to do by the hour. My children, my husband can confirm this. I used to write down what I used to do by the hour, by hour. I had my everyday routine down pat. Because while in treatment, you must submit this thing. They must check it when you wake up. All that you do, where you what you ate, classes you went for, therapy. You had to list them out. And even after going, one of the conditions for social reintegration was for you to keep that thing. And when, like, at a point I was doing monthly, but later it became quarterly. When you go for quarterly review, they will check it. They will do all those things. So it helped me develop. I was aware of every little thing. My senses were honed in. And this had to be done because having been, caught up in addiction for a long time, I told you somebody who is an addict is mentally weak because it is total loss of control. So after you've lost control, you don't know how to handle yourself. There's the need to reintegrate. So you don't have to be an addict or go into treatment. If you know that you're mentally weak, you must also, deliberately learn. Like I said, you unlearn to relearn. Begin to relearn how to be present. Begin to relearn how to be aware. I said 31 days are not enough. Just commit to it. You see, the thing about most of us is we fear putting down things on paper. We fear, documenting things. Just start. You have now there are devices everywhere. Then we didn't have all those kind of devices in 2007. We just had polyphonic phones. So you had to have your hard copy of your daily journal. So I tell you, you hear people like Oprah talk about all those things, journaling. It helps you because it's like having a two-way conversation with yourself. And I tell you, if you persevere, it will become second nature. It will improve your mental health. And you see, when you begin to practice mindfulness and practice being present, what will happen is you will begin to stop excessive thinking. And that is one thing you need to do if you want to be mentally strong. Begin to stop excessive thinking. I don't know. Sometimes I don't know if anybody can relate to this, you know, where you feel so lost in thoughts that you forget about where you are. If it's ever happened to you, then you're probably in the habit of overthinking. You would think till somebody comes and nudges you before you get yourself back. That's excessive thinking. Thinking is good, but like everything that is done excessively, it's counterproductive. So you need to decide to desist from excessive thinking. Make up your mind to stop because it really does more harm to your mental health than good. And you know, if you continue to have excessive thinking as part of your daily routine, you can't be mentally strong. So you need to stop it. And like I always say, I love to give practical tips. A couple of things I'll just share with you on what to do if you find yourself excessively thinking all the time, overthinking. And that's the truth. And I've said it, I think I said when I was talking about mental self care. Look, since you say you want to worry about something, give yourself a worry window. A worry window. A worry window. Some people tell you 15 minutes, some people tell you 30 minutes, but me, I use 1 full hour as my worry window. 1 full hour. When I'm doing this thing, this broadcast now, this is where I sit. Anything I want to think in this world, in that 1 hour, I will write, I will do things, all kinds of things, worry it and worry it. I'm telling you. People ask me all of a sudden, it looks as if you don't act as if you have any problem or any challenge. It's not true. After my worry window is closed, honestly, forget it though. Forget it. Forget it. I'll keep that other the new worry that comes in view till the next day that I have my worry window. As you have your time to pray, you have your quiet time. Have the time when you sit down and think of your issues. And you begin to develop mental strength because you see that by the time you're sitting like that, you start coming up with challenges. Solutions to your challenges. I'm telling you. And that's where I want you to revisit the brain dumping technique I talked about. Start writing it. Write. I wish I think I'll bring it because if I stand up from here now, I'll just like disrupt the broadcast. Tomorrow I'll show you my journal. I used to be in the habit of doing it on my iPad, but I remember when my iPad crashed and it wasn't backed up. I had no backup. It was terrible. I lost. So even what I do now, if I even do those things on my iPad, I send it as a mail to myself. I've created a folder in my mailbox. Most people don't even know how to create folders in their mailboxes. Anytime the thing comes, I send it to my mailbox. So I send it to the folder in my mailbox. If you are using Yahoo, there's that plus icon up there. I just send it to the folder on my mail in my mailbox. So if you see the screen of my mailbox, you will see the a column. I'm here on my system. You'll see a column where you'll see different names like this. I save it there. I can't afford extra cloud storage, so I use my mailbox. Another thing you need to do to develop mental strength, you need to be organized. I've been talking about clutter, clutter, clutter. See, your space, if your room where you are. I mean, when I used to have mental stress, when I used to really be mentally weak, anybody that knew me knew then. Because my space, my room was always in a perennial mess. In fact, that was one of the reasons I wanted my own separate room. Because when your mind is cluttered, when your mind is weak, where you go get power to make you arrange your surrounding. So you need to begin to deliberately organize yourself. Something falls, go and deliberately pick it up. It's as simple as that. Most people don't understand how connected, power of organization is to the mental state. So you need to start getting organized. You see that your kitchen, organize it. You see your wardrobe, organize it. That's why you see everything and all of that. So they have OCD. That's an impulsive disorder. Yes, they say it's a neurosis. But if you check it, those kind of people, they are always on top of their game. They might have some form of, like I said, neurosis that might tend to mental ill health, but they'll be strong in certain areas. You want to be mentally strong, you must choose to begin to remove everything that is a distraction. And that comes to toxic people too. Know how to handle them. If you don't know how to handle them, for the meantime, desist from being in such circles. And if you believe that you can thrive in such a circle, then you must have, a means of decompressing, a means of just stepping back. That's where retreating comes in. You must learn to have your personal time. Another thing that can help you with your mental strength: don't struggle to attain perfection. I'm telling you, just try as much as possible not to normalize this thing of becoming perfect. When you begin to normalize your desire for perfection, I tell you, it will put you under too much pressure. I'm not saying you should be lousy. No. But I'm saying to have mental strength, live a life of being rational and realistic. Don't set goals that you cannot meet. Don't think you have to be perpetually in competition with people. To have your mental strength, to become mentally strong, you must understand that perfection is, for me, in my own opinion, is not attainable. It's not attainable. People say there's such a thing as imperfectly perfect. Yes. People struggle so much to have the perfect marriage, the perfect home, the perfect. You're not under pressure to have any of that. What you should seek for is to be content with what it is you have. And when you begin to practice contentment, you're on your way. Nobody's saying don't have ambition. Far from it. But when you're in a state of contentment, then you even understand and know how to plan and go about everything you need to do to reach your goal and to just realize your ambition. Yes, there's something else you need to do to have mental strength. I'm truly failing in that, but I hope that with the decision I've made, to start doing right by myself in terms of my relationship with food and my physical well-being, I might just decide to hop onto this myself. Exercise is very important. It's very important. I'm not saying running how many miles or whatever, just simply walking, And for so many people, we talk about what's this thing? Adrenaline. We know the place of adrenaline, the feel good hormone, all those hormones. I remember them when I used to work out. I used to just initially the first couple of days worn out, pain and all that. But when it kicks in, I mean, the feeling is out of this world. I remember then I could walk. I mean, I have people who might be watching this or watch this later who would know that if you're in Port Harcourt, you know Port Harcourt very well. I could walk from Azikiwe Road to mile 4, the right shoes. I could jog. I remember then if a friend's brother, he's late now, he was like, gosh. And the thing about this thing is, your thoughts are clearer, it reduces stress, you sleep better at night. Sexually, you are more in tune with everything. And everybody just find what's good for you, and you will see it will help you. And when you're doing this, when you choose to begin to live life more healthily, like for me, what I plan to do really is to get somebody who I'll be accountable to. Because one thing about exercise and all of that, you just need somebody who you are accountable to, because if not, I don't know about other people, but I kind of lose steam, you know. One other thing you need to do to develop mental strength: practice the act of gratitude. Be thankful for things you have. Stop focusing on things you don't have. You know, some people, it's easy to practice gratitude. Not always. It can be very, especially when you are going through and somebody is telling you to be grateful. But even the word of God tells us, in good and in bad times, in all things, give thanks. There's this song I love, and it helped me, at times when my spirit was totally low. That song is, I will praise you in the good and the bad. That's gratitude. I know once you master gratitude, your mind just opens up. Your mind opens up. You feel more optimistic. You feel things will change. You become more hopeful. And that's what gratitude does. That's what gratitude does. So remember what I said when I started. Take your pen and paper now, or do it later. Jot down every day that journal that I said you should get, the things you are grateful for. Another thing you need to do if you want to become mentally strong. Somebody was asking me earlier today, oh, you are scarce on social media. I said, I'm good. Because it's that time. It's just since I started, the woman called you, that I would do this. If not, that I'm coming on. Or even last year when I had a 30-day prayers for husbands, I just used to come on for that hour. And after that hour, I was just done. Take a break from social media. I'm telling you, the rate of cyberbullying, the rate of trolling, social comparison, what is it? The toxicity on social media is becoming too much. I tell you, when you take a break, or choose to take a break, it's not an option, it's a necessity for the sake of your sanity. In the last couple of days, I've seen a friend who, the way she was trolled and her reactions and everything. And if I were to speak to her, I'd say, look, sweetheart, take a break. We can't deny the fact that social media does a lot, bridging the gap. People are communicating, people who you probably will never meet. You're able to talk, you're able to connect. People you've not seen for a long time, you're talking. It can help you sometimes to reduce anxiety and stress. Fine. But I tell you, you need to take a break. Not only will you become mentally strong when you're able to keep away and avoid all the kind of things that happen, your mind, your mental health will thank you. It will thank you. So please don't make it an option. It's a necessity. You can choose this week, I'm out. Because there's certain things I don't want to see. That's why I see so many people, even during election periods, some people keep off social media because, in fact, they will end up with headache. I told you the time I had to leave because, man, when I was doing political this thing on social media, sometimes I'll sleep with a headache. Because by the time they finish you, oh my goodness. So please. Another thing that'll make you mentally strong: open up to someone. See, somebody reminded me today that, if she opens up to anybody and they give her an advice and you want to go and carry it to go and be talking up and down, it's your business. Because you know one thing, when you open up to somebody, it's really about how you are feeling. It might not be something you want to do, right? But I tell you, if you are divinely led, because I have to put that part of divinity. If you're divinely led to speak to somebody, you will know that it is perhaps the best thing you would ever do. Because the way you would very likely, in fact, it's not just very likely, the way you would recover with speed. Because most people don't understand that there is strength in being vulnerable. When you are overwhelmed, you are you know that the pressure and all of that. Mental strength comes from being able to fess up and speak to somebody. I'm telling you, once you get the help you need, you get the right shoulder to cry on, you do that, the kind of strength you will get. See, I'm proof of that. Because you see, ultimately, you find yourself doing the same thing down the road for other people. That I could get to the points at which I got is because I had people I could talk to. So you need to become mentally strong. The more vulnerable you are, the more help you get. And at the end of the day, you will see the load will be lightened. So if you have a good friend, maybe you have a family member that you can confide in, talk to them about the way you feel. Feel free to say, see, I am spent. I can't go on. And you will see. And if it's like how do Igbo people do, I don't know why we don't have a lot of that here in this country. Why we don't have support groups that you are anonymous. You can decide if somebody, I hope somebody listening to this can decide to do this. You can create maybe a Telegraph group or something. Or is it Telegraph or Telegram? Yes. Where people can join anonymously. You cannot even tell it because their phone numbers to show. You can create a help blog online where people will join and just use tag names or use username, and you are able to talk about these things and open up your minds and everything, and you see to begin to help. We don't have such things here. We want, not. I'm not trying to undermine anybody, but we want to know that these are the people we're helping, and then so many people will shrink, and they won't do that. But like I've always said, and I said it like in 2 other episodes, if you feel that no, it's beyond just being mental weak and there's an underlying issue, please see a doctor. Seek for help. Seek for help. Because sometimes, when you see somebody who has been mentally strong, who has this high level of mental strength, and the person is going through, that's why they say the real test of mental strength is when you're going through something. The person is going through, you'll be hearing people saying things like, you have to be strong, you have to be strong. Please, if you're in the committee of people who are always telling people you have to be strong, I strongly urge you to desist from saying it. I'm telling you, it's not just a cliche, but you are assuming that when you're saying you have to be strong means the person is weak. Like I said, some people can be going through. The fact that they're going through doesn't mean they're weak. It's just that they just need to get themselves together. They need to get over that shock. It's like somebody grieving and you say, oh, be mentally strong. Mentally strong. It is well, it is well. You can't determine what somebody is going through at that point. The fact she's grieving doesn't mean she's weak. You understand? So we also who are kind of giving people the shoulder to lean on, we need to be careful about all these cliches that we use. Please, I'm begging us, we need to be careful, And in developing mental strength, which, like I said, is also having a strong mindset, you must understand. That's why I was talking about perfection before, that Nobody expects you, you know, to deal with things the way you would deal with them normally when you are going through. So don't beat up yourself. Don't beat up yourself at all. Don't beat up yourself at all, because oftentimes you can't help it. There's a tendency that you want to beat up yourself, but just know that there's usually a valley period. There's how graphs are plotted. You might be a mentally strong person, but you might be going through and you might not seem so strong at that point, but it doesn't mean you won't bounce back. Another thing that will make you mentally strong, help you develop mental strength, is if you decide that you see negativity. You don't have a place in my house so anymore. You don't have a place in my house. Past experiences are what they are. They've helped. Their role is to help us, plot a better future. You know, their role in our lives. They're not meant to remain as an altar. Past experiences are not supposed to be emotional baggage. I remember a couple of years ago, I spoke at a women's program. I think it was based at Church Port Harcourt, and it was about emotional baggage. So many people are weak because they just have this flashback and they just feel, look, I can't move on. You your past and tell your past to rest in peace, because that is what it deserves. You're from a broken relationship, broken marriage, or whatever. Be strong enough to go and get above the pain. That is why you need the right people in your life. Sometimes there are some things, some exercises, some mental muscle exercises that we cannot go through alone. And like I said, if you acknowledge your weaknesses after you've done that, your SWOT analysis, remember your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, you know what will happen to you. You begin to understand that the picture of my life is much prettier than I thought it was. Because then you begin to see ways you can improve yourself. You become more confident. You know that at least if I cannot cook egusi soup, I can cook okazi. You will learn not to beat up yourself. And once you learn not to beat up yourself at the, how do you call this thing? Just at the sight of the smallest kind of failure or bump on your road, you will begin to get better. You will begin to get better. And in addition, and this is going to be the last one because I don't want to take too much of our time, one of the greatest ways you can become mentally strong, my sister, learn to talk with yourself. Talk with yourself. Talk with yourself. Don't self-deprecate. Talk with yourself. Whether it is good or bad, say it. But you know what? Whatever you say to yourself is the content that matters. So choose today, what is the content of what you will say to yourself. Let the content you say to yourself be what will build you up. Don't self-deprecate. Yes, when you are doing your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, you will see your weakness, but make up your mind on what you want to do about them. Yes. When you talk with yourself, don't let your emotions get the better of you. And when you talk with yourself, nobody will come and say anything to you because you know what you've said to yourself. You know what you've said to yourself. And when you do this, you just begin to do these things, you'll see that you're the better for it. Nothing will just, I don't want to use that analogy. I won't use it. I'm on this thing. I won't use it. Don't worry, it's not French. It's not as if I wanted to use any profanity, but I won't go in that direction. But one thing I know is this: if you begin to see yourself as you want people to see you, That's the beginning of mental strength for you. That's the beginning of mental strength for every woman. And don't ever believe that when you do any of this thing, or these things rather, it will change who you are essentially. It doesn't change who you are essentially. What it does is to just bring out this better version of who you are. So I beg you, as I sign off today, use your time wisely. Be productive. Do things that will enable you for growth. Do things that will impact your mental health positively. You know, stop wasting time on things you cannot control. Stop wasting time on things that will do you no good. I know when you waste time, there's something you are doing. You are killing time. And there's this saying they say, stop killing time before time kills you. God bless you. We're done with this. Tomorrow, we'll bring you something different. Good night. God bless you. Oh my goodness. Thank you very much. Don't worry, my son is just staring at me.